properties to builders and how you can make a fortune doing this while giving the seller market value at the same time. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Greg Helbeck, and I have been a full-time real estate entrepreneur now for almost 10 years. And the point of this YouTube channel slash podcast is to share all the lessons I've learned from the trenches with you for free so you can benefit from it. So if you get value from today's podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the video. It would mean a lot to me. And let's grow this content together. So today's topic is selling properties to builders. How do you do this? Where do you do this? How does it make sense? Why should you consider it? I'm going to cover all that on this video today. So if you're not familiar with selling to builders, this is self-explanatory. If you have a house that can get knocked down, or you have a vacant lot that's an infill lot, and if you're not familiar with that, that's basically a lot in a dense area, neighborhood basically. You can sell those lots to builders and make a lot of money, or you can buy a house, sell it to a builder, and the builder will knock the house down. And you don't really have to worry about the value of the current building. You're really going off of the future value. So what are some things you got to do if you want to actually pull this off successfully and make some money? Number one is exactly what I just said, and I'll kind of dive into that. You got to understand the highest and best use. So you have to look at either the house or the lot, or in a lot of cases, both. And you got to look at number one, the zoning. What is that property currently zoned for? And you got to research this. You can find this out for free online. And when you look at the zoning will tell you what you can actually do with that property. So like, for example, let's say you have a property and it's in Seattle where I live, and you know that lot, you can build 4 townhouses on there because of the zoning and the laws. And there's currently a house on there. You need to look at the value of that as the townhouses as the highest and best use, and the sales of all those individual townhouses versus the sale of that house that's sitting there right now that's renovated. So in theory, you could take the asking price that the seller wants for the house and probably pay the price, assuming they're asking market value of the house or less, obviously lower the better. And you could still do that deal, because if you know as the investor that the house value is irrelevant in this case, the real value is what are those townhouses going to sell for minus the cost to build them and the soft cost and the profit. You could sometimes pay a seller exactly what they're asking for, and you could pay them market value. And that's a pretty easy sell a lot of the times. So let's say a seller's asking $800,000 for their house, and it's on a 8,000 square foot lot. And you know that lot is zoned where you can build 4 townhouses on there, and each townhouse would sell for $700,000 a townhouse. Your total value on sales price would be $2.8 million. And let's say it costs to build all those, I don't know, $1.2 million. So you still got 1.6 left over. If the seller was asking $800,000, you still got 800 left over. That guy's going to have some soft costs of probably 250,000. So still got 550,000 left over. Let's say you want to make a $70,000 assignment fee. The builder would still make 480 grand, and those are conservative numbers. And you'd be making 70 grand in that case, wholesaling a property the seller was asking market value for. So first lesson is you got to understand what's the highest and best use. Second thing, connecting with developers, right? You got to know people who do these types of deals. If you're a wholesaler or a house flipper and all you know is other house flippers and wholesalers, that might not do you much good in this case. You got to connect with builders, people who are going to actually do this project. You got to go out and reach out. And how do you do that? How do you find people who actually build new construction? I'll give you the easiest way to do that. You go on Redfin or Zillow. You look at all the new construction that's sold or for sale, and you call the real estate agent who's listing it, and you say, hey, I see you're representing this seller who's doing this development deal. I'm going to have some other development deals coming up pretty soon. Let's stay in touch and I'll keep you posted. Maybe they'll even connect you with the client directly if they're cool. You got to figure out, what are these people looking for? Where are they building? What towns do they like to work in? What areas do they like to avoid working in? Because obviously every city's different. So I'll give you a quick example. I did one of these deals a couple of years ago in a very wealthy area in New York, in REI, and I didn't know who to sell to originally, but then I found all the new construction that sold, and I called the agent who was representing one of the builders, and he ended up finding the buyer who built the house that he bought from me. But you got to connect with builders or agents who know builders, and that's going to really make your job a lot easier, because if you know Bob the builder likes to build in 5 different zip codes for certain reasons, now you can start marketing in those zip codes for opportunities. And if you follow my first lesson, which is understand the future value, you can turn around and pretty much reverse engineer these deals, right? You get pulled data sets that have certain zoning, certain lot size. You can literally customize a list like this. So when you're marketing for this, which will be the third lesson, is the benefit of something like this, especially in a Seattle or a New York or a really expensive areas. You can essentially reverse engineer a marketing plan and only talk to these owners if you really wanted to. And if you follow the first lesson, you don't have to even lowball these owners because you're buying the property based on the future development, not the current value. That's where I see a lot of people make mistakes is they'll look at a house, like example in my neighborhood in Seattle, and you're like, that house is a $900,000 house. That's like the average ARV on a normal house in my neighborhood. And you're like, that's the ARV of the house. You're right. But if you know the value of a brand new construction with water views is $2.4 million, the house is worth $1 million. You offer the seller 940, you sell it to a builder for $1 million, you make 60 grand, not even lowballing the seller. And they can knock that house down, build it and sell it for 2.4 million. So not only can you customize those lists and have a good marketing plan, but you don't have to be that good of a negotiator because you don't need to really lowball these sellers if you truly understand the value. So if this is like your only niche, you can really do some damage and make a lot of money without having to like get houses at 50 cents on the dollar, right? Because it's all about the future highest and best use of the piece of land. So those are my 3 lessons on if you want to sell property to builders. Telling you right now, if you focus on this, you can make a lot of money. Take advantage of this if you're in a market that allows that. And if you're not, you can always virtually do this because you can do all this research online. So hopefully you got value from this. If you did, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe. And if you're in Seattle or Reno, New York, Hudson Valley area, Delaware, or San Diego, and you have a property you want to wholesale to me, or if you want to wholesale it with me on a JV basis, send me a DM on Instagram at Grego37 or send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, and I'll see you on the next REI Weekly Lesson.